Morning,
Good
Keith.
morning. There's our famous helmet, and here is our famous advocate. How are
Yes,
you,
well,
Richard?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you, more importantly, Keith?
I'm not too bad. I have to say that because of my illness, I sometimes give way to it and think, oh, sod. And then I read about inspirational people who never let things get them down. I do a little bit of positive thinking, and away I go again. So I'm on positive thought at the moment.
Yeah.
And the lead line of a positive thinking book is I can if I think I can.
Yes.
So I think I
Does,
can.
does that mean you can drive your Red Devil to the Black Horse for lunchtime today? Is that what you're
Absolutely.
talking? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
so positive about getting it to restaurants further afield, unfortunately. But
No, I understand. Yeah.
now, let's get straight to business because
Oh, right.
I've
Thank you.
been fascinated over the two things that have come into the spotlight over the last 48 hours that we've talked about in the past,
Yes.
or at least one we've talked about, and a fascinating case. One is Ruth Ellis, and I'd like your view on what's happened there.
Yes, certainly. Should we deal with
The
that first?
second is
Sorry.
Charles Lindbergh, where apparently they're doing forensic tests now on some of the evidence from 1920 something, when
Yeah,
his son, he's a famous aviator, of course,
that's
his
right. And
son
he
was kidnapped.
kidnapped and murdered. Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
those are two things that have been crossing my mind. But you have all sorts of other things because it's been a busy a few days in the courts.
Yeah, I've been quite busy, but do you have alibis for those two matters? That's the important thing, Keith.
Luckily, old though I am, age.
Yes, I understand.
Those were my younger days, which
Yeah,
I barely recollect. But
in relation to Ruth Ellis, it's an interesting sort of halfway house on the part of those in power who say, well, we're going to give her a conditional pardon, which means that she ought to have been convicted of manslaughter effectively and therefore ought not to have been hanged. And we've spoken about this at some length in the past, I know, Keith. And if any of your viewers wish to uh, check that out, then it's there. She was a woman who was badly treated by this fella, and very badly treated, frankly. And she ended up going to a pub where she knew he was going to be, stood outside, called him out, and shot him. And it's claimed that the pub landlord, in order to make it even more infamous, then drilled a couple of holes in the wall of his pub, say, look, this is where the shots went. That's where they went. That's complete rubbish. But the poor woman was condemned as a murderer and was the last woman to be hanged in this country, in England and Wales. Whereas nowadays, I have little doubt at all that she would have been found not guilty. But in fact, that's not what's happened to her. She's been given this conditional pardon, which is, oh, sorry, we hanged you. We didn't mean to hang you. But we do think that you committed manslaughter. I don't even agree with that, I've got to say, Keith. I just think she was an abused woman who was treated very, very badly by this individual. And it's an interesting insight on the times, or on the values that people had then, that you could condemn, in particular, a woman, and that's the important thing, a woman for doing something like that, because that's really what happened. Um, she was found guilty, uh, completely guilty of murder, even though the evidence was could have been there. There would have been psychiatric evidence. She would have been the subject of what's nowadays known as controlling and coercive behaviour on his part. No question about that. She had a shockingly bad time with this man, and I don't think it goes quite far enough for my part. But that's I know that's a slightly radical view.
Would you have given her full pardon?
Yes, yes. Um, I think I would have done. Not that it's my choice in any way whatsoever, but I think she did merit something like that, certainly, given the full facts. Because mercifully, and it is, I mean it in its proper sense, with mercy, the courts nowadays recognize how some people, vulnerable people, in particular this woman, are subject to awful pressures on them, and that tends to lead them to behaving in a way that they otherwise wouldn't do. Not suggesting she was an angel, of course she wasn't, but she ended up getting driven to this state of determining that she would kill him. And you'll know, Keith, that over the years since then, there's been a gradual change in the court's attitude towards domestic violence and the effect it can have on the partner, typically the woman, and how that ought to impact on any court dealing with it. I don't believe for a moment that nowadays, in 2026, that she would have been found guilty of anything.
Yeah. I find attitudes very strange, Richard, because in many ways, I have to say that growing up young adulthood in the late 50s and the early 60s, how my own views changed so very radically. In the 60s, I was in Vancouver, a different society, but with very similar rules. And the Canadian government had put a moratorium on hanging and capital punishment, but not until sometime in the late 60s, early 70s. And I remember a solicitor that I knew extremely well saying to me, I'll have to try and get you into to watch an execution at the BC Pen. And I don't remember reacting with horror at all. I would today, and I would, within a few years of that. But it was a very different view of capital punishment in those times, and we tend to think in terms of people thinking the way that we do now, and that bothers me. In as much as I spent more than a decade, as you know, covering the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and it bothers me that we try to impose what modern day attitudes onto the British Army and the what was then the RUC, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, with our modern views and going after them in the courts, and I find that abhorrent.
Yes, there are obviously, that's a slightly different debate. There are arguments both ways on that, but I couldn't agree with you more in terms of the need not to have a death penalty. There's simply it's abhorrent.
Yes.
As I've probably told you, if they brought back the death penalty, I would not do a death penalty case,
Yes. Yes.
prosecuting
Yes.
or defending. No,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
mean, I go along with you on that. I'm glad that we don't have a death penalty, but just as another little rider to it, as you know, the Americans and so the Canadians follow suit, provide facilities for the media in the buildings of their institutions.
yeah,
And I was busy working away in the press room at Vancouver Police Headquarters, which was attached to the courts. This would be early 1970s, I suppose. And a young solicitor that I knew stuck his nose in and said, "Go to courtroom D. I think it'll be interesting." I was alone in that press room for some reason. So up I trundled the courtroom D, sat in the press box, and he came and he stood up and he said to the judge, "This is a preliminary hearing, but we'd like to advise you that we're going to press for the death penalty." Gasps all around because there was a moratorium. The moratorium had expired the day before, and the Canadian government, which was incidentally under the older Trudeau,
yes,
had neglected to renew it. This bright guy had noticed that, had got a capital case and asked for it. Of course, it was thrown out within days, but nonetheless, I have seen in court somebody asking for the death penalty.
yes, hmm. Yes. I just don't. Well, you can well imagine my views on it, but I think the Ruth Ellis case hasn't gone, as I say, hasn't gone far enough in my view. Um,
Yes.
it's a sort of it's a bit of a fudge. It's a halfway house because it's
But if she had been in court, obviously having pulled the trigger,
yeah.
what penalty do you think that she should have? Because presumably nobody is going to just set her free.
Well, I don't know, see, because obviously she was found guilty of murder. Under the current law, she could have been found guilty of manslaughter by reason of diminished responsibility.
Right.
Wasn't available to her at the time. Or she could just be acquitted on the basis that she was driven to it by his behaviour. And here are, 3 psychiatric reports that show the effect of his behaviour towards her. But I don't believe the court had any of that, because the courts didn't really give much truck to psychiatric evidence then. But I've no doubt.
If you'd been defending her, you would have called for a complete absolution, set her free, let her walk.
Yes, but back then that would have been pointless. But nowadays, certainly.
Yeah.
Because we do recognise, I'm glad to say, the mental trauma that people can go through within a domestic situation, in particular women, where they have a partner who is just being so abusive. And as you probably know, Keith, there have been a number of cases, much after Ruth Ellis's case, in this country where women have ultimately been acquitted of committing some form of homicide, because that's the generic term, in relation to their partner. And I think I'm sorry that the government didn't, or whoever decided it, didn't really feel able to grasp that nettle.
Yeah. Richard, I'm 86.
I'm very happy birthday.
Well, I'm not quite 87 yet, but I'll bring a candle into the studio on that day.
Good.
But I mean, actually, that's not far short of being 100. So when I remember stuff in the 1950s, it is a long time ago, and yet it's quite a short time, because here I am still able to talk and argue and debate with you.
Yeah, not in the least bit coherently, though, Keith. So that's fine.
How fast do you think we have come from those days where, in 1850, it was decided the last public hanging of a lady should take place outside Lewes Prison, to which 4,000 people came, and where we are now? And now that's 200 years, but how far in 100 years, where perhaps I express to some extent still the views of that era, how far and how fast have we come?
Well, not very fast, obviously, but on one, and people will always complain about this, the slow cogs of the legal system moving, and I can understand why people will complain about that. But at the same time, you can't have a sort of a churn of legal changes, because that can be confusing for everybody. But I don't think we've done too badly in the last 40 years, maybe. And if you could see, Keith, the amount of training I have to do, and not simply training, but retraining, refresher courses, for cases like Ruth Ellis or somebody else who might be the subject of controlling and coercive behavior, somebody who might have been a victim of a sexual offense. Actually, the training is rather good and helps. Now, what I don't agree with, and I've told you this before, is that sometimes courts, and not just courts, but those around the courts, identify somebody as a victim, quotes, victim, when in fact their case hasn't been determined. They're a complainant, and that's in no sense seeking to diminish their role, but you mustn't make that judgment before the jury makes their judgment. It's not for me, it's not for defense counsel, it's not for the judge to decide whether somebody is a victim. It's for the jury. And I think that's a slightly unfortunate move in the other direction, where people get called that when they don't in fact need to be called that. Use the right language, in other words. But I'm quite confident that, in my own views, that Ruth Ellis nowadays would not have been found guilty of anything.
Okay, a little earlier and on another continent, and I know that you haven't studied this very carefully, but Charles Lindbergh,
yes.
I saw a television program last night or the night before, in which they are now beginning to consider whether Lindbergh actually kidnapped his own son. Have you got any views on that case at all? I know there's a foreign court, but
no. I'm very much aware of the case, and because it's so high profile, and he was such a significant figure, that people will rake over things and come up with their theories. I don't believe that for a moment, for what it's worth. I think this was just the kidnap with a view to seeking to obtain some kind of ransom, and in fact it went wrong. So I don't, for my part, I don't think for a moment there is any, unless you tell me to the contrary from the program you saw, I don't really see anything that would put him in the frame.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can always look at things and say that doesn't seem to fit the overall picture. So therefore, let's use it as this didn't happen according to Hoyle. But I wasn't convinced at all. No.
No, no. And there is that thing, it's the grassy whatnot, isn't it? Um, JFK gets shot. Well, what's likely to have happened? Well, it's likely that a bloke went to the top of that library and shot him. And the conspiracy theories. I'm sure they're very interesting, but they don't hold any water, in my view. And in the Lindbergh case, it's pretty clear, I think. And the thought that it might be somebody within the family who did it, I just find extraordinary. And of course, they're all dead now, so.
Yes.
Well, no, but you know what that means, Keith.
Yes, right.
It means that journalists can peddle whatever story they want to peddle.
Yeah.
There's no
nobody to say no. Yeah.
Nobody to say no, and nobody to sue for libel. No, sorry, Keith. I'm sure it's an interesting story, but it just happens not to be true.
Right.
For what it's worth. Sorry.
Okay, those are the things I was interested in your views. Now you've got well, not a little list of things that have been happening recently, in which, as a top professional in your field, you have a view on. Not listed, which is former Prince Harry.
Yes, of course, we flagged this up some time ago, Keith. The risks that both sides were taking with this case. So, Associated News were taking a risk because they had, whatever it was, 9 complainants, and had they lost, the damages would have been an extraordinary high amount and their costs. But as it is, it's the complainants who have lost on a rather limited basis, in that the judge found that, there was a bit of naughtiness here, but it didn't really have any effect. A little bit of a fudge, in my view. But it does mean that the complainants who brought the case will have to stump up the costs for the newspaper. And those costs are going to be absolutely astronomical, I would have thought. I believe that somebody is assisting Doreen Lawrence with her costs, because she won't have the money to do it. But somebody like Harry and the other high-profile celebrities will have the money, and I've no doubt that your mate Paul Dacre will wring them dry for their costs. And if it wasn't the case that any of this happened, then so be it. Albeit it does seem to me that, in fact, what's really been determined is that some bad things happened, but in fact that was individual rogue reporters. It wasn't the newspaper itself.
Yeah.
Which I think raises interesting questions about, I don't know what your experience was, Keith, when you were working for a newspaper, the extent to which your editor had any sort of control over what you were putting out.
Well, I had newspapers as such. Mine was Reuters and Dow Jones.
Yes.
both names to be conjured with.
Yes.
And I have to say that when it came to the business news, I'm going to interrupt there because
Yeah.
we have with us. Let me say to viewers that one of the very, very, very strong programs that we had was with Richard's colleague and a long-time supporter and appearance on Mirador television is Philip Meredith, and who has appeared as Philip Meredith. And there we've got a remarkable combination of broadcasters together. Good morning.
Well, how could I resist the invitation from Mr. B? If that were the truth.
It's definitely the truth, Phil. I promise you.
Well, this is a pleasure. How is your health, Barton?
I'll talk to you about that once we're off there, if you don't mind.
I don't mind, Richard.
Yeah.
If we resume in contact, that's lovely, and you can tell me all about it.
Yes.
So, Keith, what
you.
has happened to rejig or rebirth our little television channel?
Well, as you know, I've struggled mightily with my health, and still do. Running Mirador the way that it was is like running a small business, and it really became a full-time activity throughout the week, which I just couldn't manage. And although I'm surrounded by very, very talented people such as you two in broadcasting terms, nobody really wanted to get their fingernails dirty on the background stuff. So what we've done is it turned it into a blog. The nice thing about a blog is that we will still do more or less the same sort of thing, but then it will spin off into 5 or 6 different things. So we will get a much wider exposure. The only thing is that we are not subject to quite the discipline that television is. So I'm able to say to the two of you, please broadcast when you want. And the 3 of us can come to a conclusion that we can do it on, say, a Wednesday morning or a Saturday morning or a Friday night or whatever, and I can plan a little better, and then I'm not under this pressure of getting up at 6 o'clock every day of the week, as it were, and not going to bed until 10 o'clock at night because we can't manage.
Yeah, well, this is music to my ears. I'm also very conscious that I'm interrupting your program.
No, you're on here by invitation, and I'm delighted.
Which is the longer arm of the law.
Yes.
Richard doesn't have long arms, and I no longer do. I'm in the law, so it's a bit passé, I would suspect. Anyway, I'll just be a passive observer while you get on with the program.
No. Please do wait, Philip, because Keith was asking me a couple of interesting questions, one of which was about the Ruth Ellis partial pardon that she got yesterday. I don't know if you've managed to read about that.
I haven't. I'm afraid I've become news unfriendly. I find the news very depressing. So I wasn't aware of that.
Are you upset about Anne Widdecombe dying?
No, that's one of the better aspects.
Oh dear. No. But, so you know Ruth Ellis, the last woman to be hanged in the country.
I know of her very well, and one of my favourite films in which Miranda Richardson plays her is called Dance with a Stranger.
Yes.
And Ian Holm plays the wannabe boyfriend, and Rupert Everett plays Blakely, and plays him very well.
Well, there you go, Phil. You know more about it than I do.
I've also read a lot of what Pierpoint said and wrote. Pierpoint said that she was the bravest victim he'd ever met.
Yes, and he was the hangman.
Albert Pierpoint, the last of a family of hangmen.
Yeah.
I do have a series of books written by a chap up north, which is purely to do with executions in this country, going back to the 1800s, which included the last public execution outside Lewes Prison.
Yes, Keith was mentioning that earlier. Yeah, but so what?
Keith was there. Keith was there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
he was
he had the black cap on. He was the one who was dealing with it. Yeah.
Yes. I should have put my black hat on this morning.
Well, once they abolished hanging, he had to change it to a blue trilby or a purple trilby.
Just crazy. No, so what's happened, Phil, is that she's been given what's called a conditional pardon.
Yeah.
In other words, she shouldn't have been hanged, but she probably was guilty of manslaughter. And I was expressing the view to Keith that I think that in the current climate, that she wouldn't even be found guilty of that, because it was a controlling and coercive relationship, as the current law describes it. He was a complete bastard to her, and he got exactly what he deserved. But unless you may have different views, Phil.
Well, instinctively I do, because having read about the trial, where she was defended very badly by Melford Stevenson.
That's right. Yes.
Very badly. He didn't really try. And reading about it, she came across as exactly what the media in those days was portraying her as, this rather vulgar, brassy, bottle blonde hostess from a club. Whereas, of course, Blakely was really rather posh, as the film makes clear. The judge, whose name escapes me for the time being, actually directed the jury that she had no defense, because she admitted intending to kill him. I mean, she did shoot him quite a few times with a gun, it is believed, provided by the man played by Ian Holm in the film, who really was in love with her. But legally, let's put it in today's...
Yes.
I get provocation, I get diminished responsibility because of her mental state, more DR than provocation, actually.
Yes.
Because it was a planned assassination. Why do you think that the coercive, controlling behavior would be a defense?
I'm not suggesting it's a defense in law. I'm just saying that I don't think a jury nowadays would convict her.
Yes, I see.
So I'm with you on the law, but I just think a jury would say this man was an utter shit towards her, and he got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah, no, I understand you now, Richard. You mean a favourable jury finding in her favour. Yes. Well, they would simply acquit her, wouldn't they?
Yes, completely.
So that's why you think, logically correctly, that she would be convicted of nothing.
Yes. Do you have your little sparrow there with you, Phil?
My canary is singing away, hoping to charm Keith.
Good morning, Casper.
Hoping to charm Keith for the first time in a couple of months, Keith.
Yes.
We haven't been in touch for a couple of months.
Are you still in Alcatraz then with your canary?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you probably would be. Yeah.
I mean, as you can imagine, my two sons believe Jackie got the canary for me in my room because of the gas I may be expelling. And so
that genuinely is a canary in your house?
Yeah, it's Casper. He's a 3-year-old canary that we adopted because his owner had to go into a care home. So he was looked after by the family, who with young grandchildren just found it too much. And one day, Jackie, my wife, was with her friend there, Ailsa, and Ailsa said, "Would you like a canary?" And Jackie felt, "Yeah, well, my
Yeah. I think
child
Auntie
of a
Mary
husband
had
will
one up
be-"
the leg of a drawers, didn't she?
So yes, he exists, believe me, and he's very loud.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
He's an absolute delight.
Are you fattening him up for Christmas, or?
No. Honestly, the one time he's come out of the cage, which was a complete mistake, because I know people find this hard to accept, but he's totally cage bound. He will not come out.
Yeah.
We've tried everything, but that is his little world. And there was one time, completely by accident, he came out of the front and was hopping around the floor of this room. He's not able to fly, apart from in the cage, from perch to perch.
Yeah.
And it was really very scary, because it was then that we realized just how tiny he is.
Yeah, of course.
He's so tiny.
Yeah.
One of my funniest moments with him is there was an Amazon delivery driver turned up one day, and he was singing away. And this delivery driver was absolutely delighted to hear it, because he was from Nigeria, and he said that his family back home kept in a huge aviary loads of canaries. And he said straight away, "You've got a canary, haven't you?" Which yes, and he responds to music. He responds to other bird song. Only the other day, because we have all the windows open at the moment for understandable reasons, and a bird perched just outside my window here on the hedge and started chatting to Casper. Well, Casper joined in initially and then got sick of it, so he went to the full blast song, which is really loud. Keith's heard it. It is desperately loud, and the other bird just bogged off.
Yeah.
So there we are. Yeah, no, he's a wonderful companion. He's just so easy to look after.
Yeah.
You know, fresh water, fresh seeds, clean the cage out every week. Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, Mrs. Barton is currently away in France at a wedding.
Oh, is she?
Yeah.
How is she?
Yeah, she's fine, thank you, Phil.
Good.
And so she's put her dog in kennels, which is fine. So I've got Jed here still. But I took him down yesterday morning because he's getting a bit old. He's not great on the stairs. It's a sort of 17-step flight of stairs down to the ground floor. And so I quite like to walk with him just to make, and he gets to the last 6 or 7 stairs and then he goes ahead. And then suddenly he stopped. And I thought, what's happened? Went around the corner. There was the bloody cat who always lives on the second floor or the first floor.
Yeah.
Downstairs, drinking out of Jed's water bottle. And he didn't know what to do. He was just looking at her thinking, what the hell's going on? And then last night, I
certainly sympathise with Jed and his aging legs, because my knees are a bloody mess. Yeah. I can hardly. There are times I can't actually manage the stairs in the house now.
No, I can understand that.
Which is miserable.
But then last night, my youngest, who is at home with me at the moment, they're taking turns to look after me in the absence of Mrs. B. She went out the back gate, went out, came back in the back gate, closed it up, let the dog out, fine, closed the back door, and then she thought, hold it, the cat will need feeding, obviously, because the cat, it's spoilt, that bloody cat. So she went up.
Cats generally are.
Yeah, so and it's always bloody wet food nowadays with this old cat. So she went
Which
upstairs.
is messy.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. she went upstairs to the top floor, couldn't find it. She went to the floor I'm on, the first floor, couldn't find her. And she was thinking, oh, good grief, what's happened? What's happened? You know, is there a dead cat somewhere in the house? And eventually, I don't know how she thought about this, but she opened the back door and there was the bloody cat. And so this is the first time that cat has been outside for 12 years plus, I think.
12 years?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is it because of the Not a Dog?
No. She just normally doesn't go out at all. But I think, yeah, maybe the absence of Not a Dog has encouraged her.
Well, it feels that way.
Yeah.
It's your cat,
yeah.
your house. I don't know anything.
No. It's but he of course is in. We have a stairgate to the kitchen, so he's always behind that. So she could come down if she wished to. But yeah, dear old Kitty, my youngest, was a bit discombobulated, thinking that she might have lost the cat. And I don't care about losing the cat, but her mother and her sisters would very much have minded that.
Yeah, the headline would be Kitty loses cat.
Kitty cat, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we got her back anyway, which...
well, I'm very delighted to hear that Jed's still with you, because I have wondered about Jed.
Yeah, no, he's 12 now.
He must be, yeah.
And all being well, if he survives until Sunday, I'm taking him over to Kingston, because the Sussex Barnets are having a dog show out on the green there.
Oh, right.
And all three of my daughters want to come along. And so we'll take him out there for, you know.
But remind me, wasn't Jed the only member of his behaviour class that failed?
No, that was Max. That was the Cairn Terrier before. Right. Yeah, but no, Jed, I've never trained him. I don't really. He is, well, Keith will confirm this. He's perfectly trainable, isn't he, Keith?
No, I remember him.
Lovely dog.
Unless he's changed, he's more timid than.
That's my one concern about this dog show is that he's going to turn up there and hate all these other dogs.
Yeah, gentlemen, I'm absolutely delighted because in the chat between the two of you, the magic is still there, and viewers can see that. But they pays their money to hear what you think about various things. So I wonder if we could take these last few minutes. And Phil, is you involved in the discussion on Prince Harry's trial, or is he still Prince Harry? But Harry's attempt to get lots of money out of the Daily Mail,
which failed, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, I will be my usual disappointment because I don't really have a view. I'm glad it failed. Subjectively, and yes, he is still Prince Harry, but he cannot use His Royal Highness.
Yeah,
he's not really a royal. He's a bit more of a royal than Randy Andy, but that's about as far as it goes.
Yeah.
So what was your view, Richard, on that?
I thought it was probably a right judgment, albeit there were, and I know that Keith is a great fan of Paul Dacre, who was the editor of the newspapers concerned. I do think that the judgment is quite nuanced in the sense that it talks about errors that were made and effectively journalists going on frolics of their own, which I think did happen, but that doesn't make the newspaper organization itself responsible. And I think that's...
Well, historically, and I'm thinking of the biggies like Watergate and whatever, it goes with the territory, Keith, doesn't it? That there will be frolics of their own, and that is actually, when you're outside the box, that is actually where things get found out.
Well, I was leaving the pub. I went out. I don't go out very often, but I went out for a pint yesterday, and I was leaving the pub, and Deck, the landlord of the Black Horse, introduced me to a friend of his who said, I was a photographer for 30 years with the Sunday Times. Now, the Sunday Times under Harold Evans in the late part of the last century was a newspaper, I thought, of incredible work. But one of the things that it had was a team, and I knew 2 or 3 of them, of investigative journalists, true investigative journalists, who really would disappear for 2 or 3 months. Nobody knew where they were or what they were doing.
Exactly, it's like undercover. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore, mainly because of cost. But I think it wasn't a bad way of finding things out over which the editor would have had little control.
Keith,
yeah, I mean,
sorry, I've just got a phone call coming through that I'm going to have to take. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm going to love the pair of you and leave the pair of you. Thank you.
All right, good to see you.
Lovely to see you.
Well, Phil, it's good to see you, and I'm going to be in touch about our new format, which because I'm still keen on you looking after Melissa, and our AI is John, who makes such valuable contributions, and viewers express.
I'm in no doubt that both of them would rejoin. But what I can't do is I can't be an administrator.
No, you said that, and in fact, what I've done is I've cut back the amount of administration so I can handle it myself, because I think that's the only way to do it at the moment. And I've hived off a lot of the local stuff, interviewing somebody because they're a shopkeeper in this, to another gentleman who is doing a spin-off channel, if you like. So we can concentrate on our international and national stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Our serious stuff.
So this program that I see is live. Where is it watched on? Is it still on YouTube?
Yes, it's still where it always has been.
Right.
But what I'm doing is I'm using, God bless him, John, is I'm using AI and asking them for advice on where what's the best way of tapping in to the way that the industry says you use distribution. So within a week, I hope that our distribution will be, we'll retain this channel, but we'll also distribute where people look for programs in a different way to the way they do on television as such. So we'll expand our exposure, and we won't be quite as dogmatic as we have been in terms of schedule. I may come to you and say, Philip, is there a possibility that I can have you and whoever you've got going on Wednesday this week, and you say yes or no, or we come to some conclusion, and that we can also not do stuff live quite as much as we have, but we most certainly will do Thursday morning, if you can put that in the book, because Richard is quite keen to have you with him, and I'm quite keen to have you with him, because you are such a powerful combination. Just in the chat that you've had this morning, I sat here, I haven't said a thing. Casper and I have been in silent communion, listening to the two of you.
Yes, I did notice you were rather dumbstruck. But you were no more dumbstruck than I was when I finally got your email saying that he wanted to see me.
Yes, indeed.
I didn't really believe it at first. I thought it
well,
was you. I thought it was you having me on again. Because you are an old rogue. No, that's delightful. Well, today's Friday, but you want me to be available on the Thursday morning.
or to perhaps, well, the point is just, I'd like us to, I mean, we talked a lot up until the time of my last illness, and we'll talk a lot, and you can say to me, look, you know, I'm just, the Duke of Norfolk has invited me in on Tuesday afternoon into his castle in Arundel. Can I have a spot?
No, I mean, Eddie the Duke invites me on a daily basis, as you can imagine, Keith. You know, I'm a regular at Arundel Castle.
Yes.
Not.
Well, I know that you're very keen to push the town of Arundel, which has a great history, but hasn't had a lot of exposure. And not the way that Lewis has, for instance, and even some of the places like New Haven. I'm now gaining a little bit of time to see whether I can find some funds so I can say to you, right, I can give you a cameraman for the day. Please go and do whatever you want. So we're not restricted in the way that we have been.
Well, let's learn to walk again before we run.
Yes.
Arundel has plenty of exposure, but it's exposure to tourists. The actual townsfolk, there's not many of us who live here, a couple of thousand, I think it is. And the place is overrun most of the year, but by tourists. The actual decent venues to eat and drink are minimal now. It's all coffee shops, sweet shops. There are very, very few worthwhile ventures. We have a wonderful local town square butchers who are amazing. If they ever went, the place wouldn't have a heart anymore.
Yeah.
Because next to the butchers is a very, very high quality delicatessen called Pallant. And those two shops are together and they are at the very heart of the town square. Anywhere else, well, we've got a convenience store that charges the earth. We have a pretty rundown, tacky co-op, and so on. But
well, there's a wonderful history as well. I mean, you set me straight about the church and how it was used by the armies in the English Civil War.
Oh no, the Parliament, when Parliament finally broke the siege of Arundel. No, I put that wrong. When they finally occupied Arundel, no, they used the parish church as stabling for their horses.
Morning, Teddy.
Have you got to go?
Is our other colleague, Teddy Walmsley, has just come in. He comes in and checks on me to make sure that I hadn't actually fallen down and that the technology hasn't defeated me. So he stuck his nose in.
That's very kind. That's very, very kind of him.
Yes.
Yeah, you have mentioned his name in your emails. Yes.
Yes. He's a good chap.
He sounds it. He's very welcome. Well, look, let's call it a day for today.
Okay.
I am happy to pencil in a Thursday morning.
Good.
For me and Barton, if he wants to carry this on.
Yes. Well, that's a combination that nobody could be more delighted than me, as you know. Both from a television point of view and from a friendship point of view.
Well, of course, yes, both. I agree. But he does still do court cases, doesn't he? He still works.
Yeah, he does.
So it'll be work dependent for him, won't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So when do you normally start with him? 9 o'clock or earlier?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Well, that suits me.
Good.
I mean, particularly in this weather, I'm up well before 6. So,
like the rest of us, by living on the sleep. Yeah.
all right. Well, let's, as I say, let's learn to run again before we run. To walk again before we
Yes.
run. And I will be here and available next Thursday at 8 o'clock.
Excellent. I'll probably talk to you in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm glad you're getting better. That's good.
Yes.
And being
Lovely
looked
to
after.
see you, Phil.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, there we are. We ventured into the law courts again, both now and in the past. Teddy Walmsley has come in, and I shall have a little chat to him, and then we'll see what Friday brings for us. So for the moment, they call me Mr. Heath. Pretentious? Not really. Read about it. Bye.
Thank you.